Accord between Aruba and the Netherlands signed. Director of the NRPB gives an update on the repair to the various schools on the island. And President of the Lions Club gives brief history of Lionism on St. Martin. Those are the headlines from Monday, November the 16th, 2020. Good evening, viewers. This is SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. And as usual, we have a full newscast for you this evening, so let's get started. In our first story, the St. Martin Lions Club will reach a milestone on December 12, 2020. The club will be celebrating their 50th anniversary since being formed back in 1970. Current president of the St. Martin's Lions Club, Mr. Alphonse Gums, speaking exclusively to our news department, gave a history of the club's existence.
The Lions Club International is an international organization. We are 103 years old. It started back in 1917 in the city of Chicago. It was founded by Melvin Jones, who's the founder, and he was not the first president, but he was the founder of the club with a group of businessmen that started this club back in 1917. Lions Club International, you can find a Lions Club wherever you go in the world. We are right now over 1.4 million members strong. You find us in over 200 countries, so on every continent of the world, you will find a Lions Club organization. And we are right now the largest social organization, service club organization in the world. So we are very proud of that history, and we, as the St. Martin Lions Club, are very proud to be part of this international association.
Okay. Do you remember, would you know who the first president of the Lions Club was locally?
Locally, yes. The first president was the late Ben Flan. Yeah, and I will come to that in a few minutes when we talk about the anniversary of the Lions Club.
Right.
But Mr. Ben Flan, the late Ben Flan, was our first president.
Okay. So continue with our history of the Lions Club here on St. Martin.
So our history, the Lions Club in St. Martin was established on December 12, 1970. As I mentioned earlier, the late Ben Flan was our first president, and it was over, if I remember correctly, about 17 members, businessmen in our community, that started the club here in St. Martin. We wrote charter in how the Lions Internationalists work. For a club to be established, an already existing club has to be the one to sponsor that club. And we were sponsored by one of the Lions Club out of Curaçao. And at that time, we were formed because we was in the Curaçao bracket. We were belonging to the area code that they call where we was in the Latin American area. But because of the language issue, we spoke mostly English, not Spanish. So in the latter years, I think a few years ago, we were moved to Area 1, which is with the USA Canada. So we now fall under the USA Canada district within the multiple district 16 that we have.
The Lions president also spoke to us about one of their many projects that they have been busy with, the painting that was done over the weekend at the Cottage Roundabout.
The painting that you've seen on Facebook. If you know the roundabout, the Cottage Roundabout at the Eddy Supply area, the roundabout and the parcel of land on the right-hand side of the roundabout, the Lions Club has access to those property from the government. Our plan, and it's a plan that we have in the past few years, that the part of the roundabout that close to the pond, is by the billboard and so forth, we want to develop a family park there. That's one of the projects that I was looking at in this year. But as we know, COVID has also put a halt on that. So we are hoping within the next few years that will become a reality.
Okay.
What you will see, what the public will see within the next few weeks is that we will be finalizing that roundabout. We will be decorating it, especially for the Christmas season. We will be making it a festive area. So we know a lot of individuals right now, because of COVID, we are not in the spirits that we would like to be. We know a lot of families will not be able to celebrate Christmas like they would normally do. So we as a club are hoping that this decoration that we will do will give those individuals that sense of feeling that we are still within the Christmas spirit.
Christmas spirit.
You will see that coming along in the next few years. And what we did as a club, we have been painted around the roundabout. We painted black and white, and we also went a little further. And the dividers, the government dividers on the road, those was also painted by the club.
And in other news at this time, on the program, The Prime Minister Talks, which was aired on Sunday last, November the 15th, the Prime Minister of St. Martin interviewed the new director of Safe Haven, Ms. Vanessa Frazier. Ms. Frazier announced on the program that a panel discussion will be organized to commemorate Domestic Violence Day, which will be observed on Saturday, November the 28th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
This year, Safe Haven is hosting a panel discussion. The panel discussion is themed Conversation about Domestic Violence. So we have a group of panelists, all experts in their own fields, and they will be talking about how to gain financial independence, how to strengthen your mental health, the support that is offered by our law enforcement. So we have different domestic violence related topics that are relevant to anybody who is in a toxic relationship, anybody who wants to offer support to a friend or a family member. And you know what? If you are an individual perpetuating abuse and you know that you want help, you are going to tune in because that is the first step.
Right,
yeah?
Acknowledging it.
Acknowledging it.
Yeah.
So really the panel discussion is for anybody and everybody because this is a community problem. It's not an individual problem. I want to tell you a little bit more about the panelists because I'm very excited about them. Yes, they are great minds and they have a lot of knowledge to share. Let me start with the number one panelist, our Prime Minister, Sylvia Jacobs. Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, it's my pleasure.
Then we have Mr. Emilio Calmera. He's a financial specialist. Why we have him on board is because what you often see is that a lot of our ladies who remain in an abusive relationship, it's because they don't have the financial resources to get out of it. And
right.
Especially now with COVID, with so much uncertainty, they are inclined to stay in a situation because at least they have a roof over their head.
Correct.
And they have a hot plate at the end of the day.
Right.
You know? He will be offering some practical advice and principles on how to maneuver with your budget in order to still give yourself a self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
All right, and then one of the other panelists is Cassandra Richardson.
Oh.
Yeah, the former director of Safe Haven. She is very active in our community, bringing awareness, putting the word out there as a gender-based violence specialist, but she is also a mental health professional. So she has that double combination, which makes her a powerhouse, of course. And then we have Detective Patricia Richardson. She is representing KPSM. She is the officer or the detective in charge of the domestic violence portfolio.
Okay.
So she is our direct liaison also at Safe Haven. We work very closely together with her, and the panel would not be complete without her presence.
Great.
Then from the prosecutor's office, we have Sandra Whitfield. She will be shining some light on how to build your case. What you often hear is the disgruntlement and the frustration from people from, hey, I filed a report, I made a complaint, I was assaulted, my rights were taken away from me, they were violated. Why isn't this person prosecuted?
Right.
So you need to understand how to build your case.
And now in news out of The Hague and Aruba, the government of Aruba and the Netherlands on Friday signed a political accord with regard to the third liquidity support tranche. Aruba has agreed to the Dutch conditions and will take 105 million euro or 209 million Aruban florins in interest-free loans from the Netherlands until the end of this year. We have an agreement which was approved by the Kingdom Council of Ministers today, announced Dutch State Secretary of Home Affairs and Kingdom Relations Raymond Knops during a press conference in The Hague in the presence of Aruba Prime Minister Evelyn Wever-Kroes. Knops and Wever-Kroes signed the accord during the virtual press conference. The biggest stumbling block in the negotiations were relations to Aruba's autonomous position as a country. Aruba did not want to be added to the Kingdom law on financial supervision, which has been in place for Curaçao and Sint Maarten since 2010. Aruba had a problem with the original Kingdom law proposal to establish the Caribbean Entity for Reform and Development. The original proposal would infringe on Aruba's autonomy. That part has been changed in the negotiations. The COHO will not replace the authority of the country Aruba, and as such, the autonomy will be safeguarded. This is very important to us, said Wever-Kroes. Knopp said that the accord was a step in the right direction, but emphasized that the real work started now. In a number of areas, such as the pension reform for ministers and members of parliament, Aruba will have to take steps in the short term in order to receive future liquidity support. According to Knops, without the Dutch liquidity support, Aruba would have gone bankrupt and salaries would not have been able to be paid this month. This crisis has clearly shown the weak spots. A sustainable balance must be found between revenues and expenditures. The expenditures were way too high, costs which Aruba cannot carry. He assured that the Netherlands would keep supporting Aruba as long as the country was willing to carry out the accord. Aruba is the second of the 3 Dutch Caribbean countries to reach an accord with the Netherlands for the third liquidity support tranche. On November the 2nd, an agreement was signed with Curaçao. There were no negotiations with Sint Maarten in the past months because the country did not comply with the conditions of the second tranche. Talks have started on Friday. Talks were scheduled on a civil servant level. Meanwhile, talks have commenced between Sint Maarten and the Netherlands for the third tranche liquidity support, pending Sint Maarten's compliance with the conditions of the second tranche and confirmed commitment to the requirements of the third tranche. Dutch State Secretary of Home Affairs and Kingdom Relations Raymond Knops stated this in a letter that he sent to the Dutch Parliament following the Kingdom Council of Ministers meeting, where a number of decisions were taken with regard to the budget and financial situation of Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten. As for Sint Maarten, the State Secretary reported that the Committee for Financial Supervision, CFT, had concluded that Sint Maarten in the past period has made significant steps in giving content to the conditions of the second liquidity support tranche. In lieu of this CFT advice, talks have started with Sint Maarten about the third tranche and the associated conditions. Further steps in order to fully comply with all conditions are necessary and see to the immediate execution of the measures and the starting up of the legislation trajectory to have the necessary national ordinances materialize, it was stated in the letter. Also, Sint Maarten must give content to the 12.5% reduction of the labor conditions for civil servants until further order. The 12.5% pay cut for the public sector was already implemented for 2020, but needs to continue in 2021 as well. The reduction should be adequately implemented as well for all government entities and publicly financed foundations and institutions that are funded for at least 50% from the government budget. The Kingdom Council of Ministers on Friday approved to immediately transfer an additional 181 million guilders in liquidity support to Curaçao under the third tranche. State Secretary Knops explained in his letter that after Curaçao signed the November 2nd accord with the Netherlands, an amount of 105 million guilders was paid for the third tranche. However, the CFT advice showed that Curaçao's total liquidity need for the rest of this year was 286 million guilders. The Kingdom government decided to follow this advice and approved the payment of 181 million guilders in remaining liquidity support under the third tranche. The Kingdom Council of Ministers also took a decision to further allow the Dutch Caribbean countries to deviate from the budget norms due to the COVID-19 crisis, which makes it impossible for the countries to have balanced budgets as is normally required under the Financial Supervision Kingdom law. The CFT advised for both Curaçao and St. Martin that the permitted budget deficit for this year may equal the allocated liquidity support for that year. Based on this point of departure, the Kingdom government decided to allow Curaçao to have a 2020 budget deficit of 685 million guilders and for St. Martin, 185.5 million guilders. The Aruba Committee for Financial Supervision, CAFT, issued a similar advice for Aruba, meaning that a maximum budget deficit of 808 million Aruba florins is allowed for 2020. Aruba is allowed to make capital investments this year for a maximum amount of 40 million Aruba florins. These should only concern emergency investments, which the CAFT needs to assess first. Curaçao and St. Martin in budget year 2020 will also only be allowed to make capital investments that are based on the reform agenda of highly urgent replacement investments. The countries must adequately substantiate such investments and submit to the CFT for an assessment. The Kingdom government furthermore decided to make explicitly clear that the criteria and procedures in the financial. And still to come, Member of Parliament for the UP says she has forwarded all her research to her colleagues. We'll have the details to that story and much more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
Welcome back, viewers. This is SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. As we continue now in other news, Member of Parliament for the UP party on the decolonization, speaking on Facebook on Sunday last, November the 15th, the member says that she has forwarded all of her research to her colleagues in Holland, in Aruba, in Curaçao, and specifically those on St. Martin. The Member of Parliament said that the most important thing that they have to pay close attention to is the resolution 945.
A couple months ago, I think it was 5 months ago, I decided to forward all my research to my colleagues, those in Holland, those in Aruba, those in Curaçao, and specifically here in St. Martin. I sent it to them in July. The most important thing that they need to pay close attention to is the resolution 945. That's very important, and that maps out and clears everything. Because as an association, autonomous within the kingdom, in order for you to be decolonized, Article 73 should completely apply. Now, Article 73, and I want to be very clear, is the UN, that it's Article 73 of the UN Charter basically says that Holland as a colonizer, and still is, they're obligated to make structural investments in St. Martin and bring it to a level where it can sustain itself. Now, 20 years ago, I know the politicians back then, their mindset was to completely break away from the Netherlands Antilles, and maybe they weren't too focused on on our democracy. Now, why is it so important now? Why all of a sudden the talk about decolonization? Let's rewind back to 2017 when we had a Hurricane Irma. We were at a very, very, very vulnerable time in St. Martin, and we were offered a 550 million euros from the Dutch Kingdom, and it went to the World Bank. But anyone can Google, anyone can find out, and everyone would know by now that the World Bank is very cumbersome. It's a lot of bureaucracy in order for you to get to the funds, and factually so. You're seeing it today that most of the funds are still there on the bank, on the accounts of the World Bank. We got a few roofs done, some things are done, and I think mainly because we are so strong as a nation, we were able to get back. And now here we are, 3 years later with the pandemic, and now we are flat. We have nothing coming in. We never asked for the cruise ships to leave us. We never asked for the planes to leave us. We never asked for this pandemic. And how our structure is set up is that we can't fend for ourselves. We can't go and ask outside of the kingdom for funds. So, in a way, Holland, our kingdom partner, is literally our only the strongest country that can financially assist us. But what's happening today, when it comes with the CRE, they're coming with conditions that are literally putting us 10 steps behind. So why decolonization? Have we had really paid keen attention 20 years ago and really finalized and updated our Resolution 945, St. Martin would not be where it is now. That bond we wanted to float a few months ago, we would have been able to float it locally without going through all of this, what we're doing right now. We would have been more free to get money abroad. We would have been able to have reserves right now on our own. And our standard of living, which is the most important thing, our standard of living would have been high, our minimum wage would have been high, because we would have been able to invest and do long-term investments and really build the country the way we wanted to.
And as we continue now with our exclusive interview with the director of the NRPB regarding the private home repairs project of some 200 private homes that has entered into an accelerated pace, Mr. Claret Connor told us why it took so long to get funding to start with the rebuilding process.
Similar to the home repair program, the schools also we also have a project that is being executed for general school repairs. So we're not reconstructing schools, we're talking about general school repairs. Some of the schools fell under the shelter program. We had MPC, Gym, Genevieve de Viva School as well fell under the shelter program, and Academy, the gym part, that fell under the shelter program. So that is also a project within ERP that is continuing. With regard to the schools themselves, we have not started yet. The technical teams are still finalizing the technical works for this, and also the contracting of the contractor for the school repairs. And when we start, we would start with St. Joseph School, the Sister Regina School, and Lionel Connor School would be the first batch of schools that will start with repairs. Obviously, with us dealing with the COVID situation, things have been delayed, but we're working very diligently in terms of getting these schools, the school activity, the project for the repairs finalized as soon as possible.
All of these schools that you mentioned, all of them are physically really damaged that badly that it takes a little while to.
Well, it depends. Each location has its own unique way of its own unique damage that has to be addressed. That is why it is a requirement to have not only the technical and physical aspect of the schools done properly in terms of the preparation, but also within World Bank policy, the safeguards is important, especially when you're dealing with schools, because you're dealing with children, you're dealing with an environment that is used by a lot of individuals on a daily basis. So it takes some time in order for you to prepare a project properly in terms of repairing schools. And again, we are not going to rush into something and make a bad situation even worse. As you know, some of our buildings experience we've had with a lot of the buildings that we have has been, you see on one level what you think may be the problem, and then when you start to work, you see, you encounter a number of other issues. So the technical review, the technical inspection of these works have to be done very meticulously.
Now, turning to our weather forecast for November the 16th, 2020, patches of low-level moisture transported across the region by the northeast wind flow will cause a few isolated showers across the local area. Meanwhile, slight to moderate marine conditions are expected during this forecast period. So the outlook through Wednesday midday, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy at times with isolated showers. Now, let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, CEO of TLM Group says the bottleneck now is the ISP. And I'll have the details to that story when SXM Daily News returns.
The innovative Banco Matico contactless smart card. Your Banco Matico smart card is now equipped with a contactless feature for payments, so get ready to tap and go. Contactless payments are fast, easy, secure, and accepted worldwide at all Maestro-enabled contactless terminals. Tap for transactions equivalent to or less than 100 NAF, or the US dollar equivalent. You will receive notifications via email anytime you tap. Tap, tap, and pay fast with WIB. For more information, visit our website at wib-bank.net. Tap and go with your partner in progress.
And welcome back, viewers. And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, Chief Executive Officer of the TLM Group of Companies, Mr. Kendall Dupersoy, speaking in Parliament recently on November the 6th, 2020, about TLM's financial status, updated the members of Parliament about the Fiber to the Home project. Mr. Dupersoy says it is an important part in their future going forward. However, the bottleneck now is the ISP.
First, let me start with our Fiber to the Home project. As Mrs. Etnell mentioned in the financial part, it is a very important part of our future going forward, and it's what is basically the saving grace of the company. We have some numbers. I can give you the year-to-date summary, where we have work orders and surveys and what's installed. So basically, we have total of 2,561 customers that are installed on the fiber right now, which was 773 was done by the previous contractor and 894 by this current contractor. We have a breakdown by month, but I'm pretty sure that that's not too important for you. What we have now basically for our bottleneck is what we call our ISP. So we're putting down the cable all over the place. Phillipsburg is ready now. We're going to start with the ISP part of Phillipsburg. Basically, the OSP is the main cable that we have running around the island. The ISP is the actual connection to the home. So what we do, we have it in two sections when we do the project. We do the main cable, put it down, run it to everybody's meter wall, and then from the meter wall, we have to get into the home. That part is the ISP. So the first part is the OSP. The second part, we call it the ISP.
And with that, viewers, it brings us to the end of this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening. I am Valerie Van Putten, thanking you so much for joining me this evening. And just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you so much for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.